Next, we want to talk about supply chain capabilities. So, in order to achieve strategic fit, first we understand customer demand and need and the uncertainty it involves. And then we're gonna learn about the capabilities of the supply chain, which can help us navigate through that uncertainty. So, first of all, it is very important to understand what we want to do with our supply chain based on our competitive strategy. Do we want to have a responsive supply chain or do we want to have a cost-efficient supply chain? Obviously, it is possible to be in between, not necessarily have to be only one of it or one of these two. But again, we have to think about it before building our supply chain, or even if we have a supply chain, we should revise all the operations if we want to be any of these or more leaning towards any of these. So a responsive supply chain is a supply chain that can offer large quantities or different ranges of quantities of products. It can meet short lead times. It can handle a various product variety, offers variety in terms of product. It can have innovative product offerings, and it can meet high service levels, the level of availability of the products, and therefore be able to handle the uncertainty around these topics. On the other hand, an efficient supply chain means that it is trying to minimize the cost of making the products, cost of delivering the products, making sure that all costs related to the all operations of the supply chain is minimized, and therefore we are enabled to offer low price to the customers. So obviously, if we want to be responsive, it's going to be expensive. Finding suppliers who are responsive, working toward offering new technologies, working toward offering variety to the customers, working to offer fast deliveries, product availabilities all the time. So this means that it's going to be expensive. And therefore, it's not possible to be responsive and cost efficient at the same time. So we are either responsive or cost efficient. But we can be in between, meaning that the cost is a little bit high, but not we are not that much of responsive like Amazon, right? So basically we can build a supply chain in between. But again, we have to be mindful what each one does. For example, Apple supply chain is both responsive in terms of offering new technology, new launches, global availability. They are actually using airplanes and usually using FedEx airplanes to deliver the new product, the entire market in the world so fast. They are also managing their costs, meaning that trying to lower the cost through very, very effective inventory management system. So again, they are trying to manage their costs, but also offer some sort of responsiveness to some extent to their customers. And that's why we can draw the cost responsiveness efficient frontier like this. So we can have responsiveness on the x-axis and cost on the y-axis. A supply chain can be not responsive or really responsive, very high responsibility, or maybe high cost or low cost. Okay, so again, if the supply chain has low responsiveness, if in order to be on the frontier, we can only be on this curve. So low responsiveness can be low cost. Low cost means cost efficient supply chain, not responsive supply chain. And we can move toward this curve, be a little bit costly, but good amount of responsiveness. But as we move further on this curve and become more responsive, then our cost increases significantly. So in order to become a responsive, fully responsive supply chain, we're gonna have a lot of related costs in our supply chain. So IKEA is an example of efficient supply chain based on their way of building inventories, and basically they're outsourcing the assembly to customers. You are doing the assembly instead of people, employees of IKEA doing it and adding to the cost. You are doing the assembly yourself, and therefore you can purchase these kind of products in lower price. Zara, on the other hand, is more responsive because they are fast fashion, they are just offering different kind of trends all the time, being really fast and offering those trends to the market. But also there are some businesses that they are in the middle, maybe trying to be a little bit responsive, a little bit cost efficient as well. So here's a table that compares efficient supply chains and responsive supply chains. I want you to be very familiar with this table because, again, moving forward, we're going to have only two types of supply chains, cost efficient or responsive. Okay, so we should be very familiar with what each is and how they should create the entire supply chain, design the entire supply chain so that they match their competitive strategy. So the primary goal of efficient supply chains are to lowering the cost. It is being fast in many different domains for responsive supply chains. Product design, maximize performance at minimum product cost, but responsive supply chains are trying to create, for example, so in terms of modules, and postpone the product differentiation. What this does, for example, in terms of, as I mentioned, in terms of, for example, IKEA, to some extent, they're trying to be responsive in this regard as well, meaning that they do offer modularities of their products, and basically they don't build the entire thing, but rather they build in smaller pieces, and then they use the same piece in many different products. When you're purchasing a product, there might be a similar piece in many different things, and therefore they postpone the product differentiation later at a time. And this helps them to be responsive. Also, there might be other examples of the products. Maybe I can ask you to think about this and find out examples that do postpone product differentiation. I'm going to give you an example. For example, if you walk into the stores like Home Depot and you want to purchase a dye, for example, you want to color your wall, so there you can go and order a specific color, and they're going to mix the colors to create the one that you want. So they do not carry every single color in the store. They do carry the bases and then they mix them to give you the color you want. They offer variety so that they're responsive in terms of variety offerings and availability offerings, but they postpone the product differentiation to the store so that they can offer this kind of variety. And then pricing, efficient supply chains trying to lower the price, responsive supply chains not necessarily. They offer prime service and they get the price for it. In terms of manufacturing, efficient supply chains lowering the cost by high utilization of their manufacturing centers. Responsive supply chains do keep some capacity of their manufacturing to be flexible. So if the demand is up, then they have the extra capacity in their manufacturing to run more and build more products. If the demand is low, they don't have to run all their manufacturing centers, and they can basically work with the demand uncertainty. Obviously, keeping some part of manufacturing capacity unused increases the cost. But responsive supply chains do offer higher prices because they do offer this kind of flexibility. In terms of inventory, efficient supply chains try to lower the cost of inventory. Responsive supply chains still keep some inventory as the buffer. So excess inventory is kept in responsive supply chains just in case, so that shelves are not empty. They can offer availability fast, they can offer shipments fast, and so on. Lead time, efficient supply chains do not necessarily offer fast deliveries, but they try to work on the cost side. Responsive supply chains do offer short lead times. Supplier strategy, efficient supply chains work with low cost, good quality, but responsive supply chains try to work with high quality, reliable, flexible, high speed suppliers on their products. So last step in achieving strategic fit is actually to make sure that we understand what our supply chain strategy is, cost efficient or responsive, and then make sure that we utilize the supply chain capabilities to match this strategy. And then all functions within the business, within the supply chain are working toward our competitive strategy. Therefore, we achieve strategic fit. So strategic fit is a continuous process, meaning that we cannot just say we achieved the strategic fit and we are done. We're going to continue reviewing and revising all the business strategies, changes in the market. Are we switching things? Are we changing things? And then continuously observe what's going on in terms of customer value, in terms of uncertainty, and adjust the entire system as needed. Example is Brilla Pasta. So they achieve a strategic fit because they wanted to be widely available in good quality and good cost, basically low amount of cost, and they continuously working on their processes to make sure that they deliver as they as their strategic fit is. So we talked about uncertainty in supply chains. Again, if specifically we want to be responsive supply chains, there's so many uncertainty. Make sure there's availability of the products, making sure that there are variety of products available, make sure that the time, the speed is fast, make sure that quality is high. So all this imposes a lot of uncertainty on the supply chain. And we want to learn how we can actually work through our supply chain and leverage some capabilities that we have to manage this uncertainty well and be ready for it and make sure that we can still have a successful business. Um, there are five fundamental levers that we can use to manage this uncertainty. One is capacity. So capacity in terms of capacity of our suppliers, capacity of our manufacturers, capacity of our warehouses, capacity of our distribution system, capacity of retail stores, and so on. So if we have extra flexible capacity in any form, it can help us basically mitigate the risk of uncertainty. For example, if the demand, we don't know the demand, right? Demand can be up, can be down. It is uncertain because it is for future. So instead of basically, we can work with the capacity in anticipation of the demand. So if we can have some flexibility in terms of capacity of manufacturing. So if the demand is up, we just send a note to the manufacturers, hey, produce this many units more, because demand is up. Or if we anticipate demand to be going down, we send a note to the manufacturer, hey, you don't have to produce that many units of products, right? So this helps a lot to make sure that we don't have excess inventory, we don't have empty shelves because we offer availability and variety to our customers. Another lever that helps us to manage the uncertainty is inventory and buffer stocks. Again, every single unit of inventory is costly. Specifically if it is technology domain. We want to sell them out because technology changes and people will not purchase the old products anymore. Or in fashion, trends come and go, people will not purchase the untrendy stuff anymore. So we want to make sure that our inventory is also flexible. So we keep some extra inventory for some products that we offer a high availability for them. Um, so that when customer demand is up, we have extra inventory to cover it. But still, it's very critical decision. How many units of inventory we should keep as the buffer. It shouldn't be really high because then if we cannot sell them, we don't know what to do with them. If it is low, again, we will not be able to offer availability as we promised. In the inventory chapter, we're going to talk about how to decide about the quantity. Time is another one. Time, combining speedy supply with customers' willingness to wait, right? So we know that some customers do value fast shipments, fast delivery, but again, we can work with making sure that we can be fast in our supply chain. So setting up the distribution system in a form that we can deliver that. Information. So there are so many entities working together, collaborating, coordinating things throughout the supply chain. Every single piece of information should be shared with every single unit working in a supply chain. So let's say that there's a marketing team doing demand market study, demand forecasting. They should share this information with the distributors, with the manufacturers, with the suppliers, so that they know if demand is high, if demand is low, if there are new trends, if there is some other stuff happening in the market, competitors, what they are doing. So information should be shared constantly and very fast throughout the supply chain. And this helps reduce uncertainty. If the marketing team, retail stores doing market research and knows there are some trends and changes in the market, but does not share it with the manufacturers, then there will be a lot of uncertainty for manufacturers. They don't know exactly what to expect, what to do, because they don't have the information. So, lack of information can create uncertainty. Sharing information can help reduce this uncertainty. And the price. So, changing the price for different kind of products or different time when offering the service and product can help manage uncertainty. For example, Uber, Lyft, they do have surge pricing. And the reason is that the demand is sometimes really high, the availability is low. So by changing the price, they try to manage this uncertainty, but it still be offer availability and responsiveness. The airlines, they do increase the ticket prices closer to the flight time, departure time, because then they want to balance and make sure that they fill out the seats, but also uh, work with different customer segments. So, or for example, discounts that are being offered at the end of the year, closer to, for example, Christmas or off-peak seasons, um, then it is because they want to use price as a lever to manage the uncertainty around demand. So these are very important factors we have to remember with responsive supply chains specifically. We have to work with one of them or multiple of them or all of them if needed to manage the uncertainty in the supply chain. And so there are companies like Amazon working with all of these uh, factors, making sure that they have massive fulfillment capacity, flexible, they have inventory flexibility, they have very fast lead times, they share information related units very fast, and therefore they can offer responsiveness, and also to a good extent they can offer cost efficiency because of the scale, because they could actually increase the scale of their work, they can lower the cost. So I have some questions for you to practice what we just covered. Question number one, a fashion retailer like Zara replenishes stores twice a week. Which supply chain levers it's using and why? So think about Zara being responsive, what they should do. Question two, a company shares its real-time point of sale data with all suppliers. Which lever does this represent? How does this reduces demand uncertainty? So we are talking about data information, right? Draw the cost responsiveness efficient frontier for an efficient supply chain and also responsive supply chain. So um, where exactly an efficient supply chain lands on this frontier, where exactly a responsive supply chain lands on this frontier. A company uses search pricing during peak demand periods. Which lever is this, and what is the trade-off for relying on it too heavily? What if we use this lever all the time and just try to manage demand using this? Does this work all the time? What are the risks around it? Okay, that's it. So please think about the answers and you can find them in the next slide.